ready to rumble.
What is up, everybody? You are now tuned in to the Casual Wrestling Podcast, where each and every week I break down the world of professional wrestling for all of the casual wrestling fans in the world. Sometimes I'm joined by a guest, sometimes I ride solo. Either way, you do your part by hitting the like button and commenting on this video, letting me know who you are and where you are listening from. It is Tuesday, November 26th. We are just mere days away from the turkey feast here in the United States. If you are one of our American listeners, happy early Thanksgiving. If you're abroad, go grab a turkey and indulge with us. There is zero rules that say you can't eat a turkey on a random Thursday with us. Nothing stops you from enjoying the indulgence of a good turkey with us. Lots to talk about this week. We are back to a record and edit format, if you haven't noticed already. Look, I know we've been pigeonholed for a while by reacting to Raw and SmackDown, and that was fun. That brought everybody together in 2024, but rolling into 2025, want to do things a little differently. Want to get in the rhythm of not being so reactive to what we see immediately. I'm not a big fan of the reaction content, especially not a big fan of reacting to it as it happens. And doing a post show feels like just one step removed from reaction content. I prefer to let my thoughts kind of marinate a little bit. I like a good brain brine, kind of just let things get calculated, let kind of calculate what I say. You know, I enjoy live. I do enjoy live. There's a dopamine hit that comes with going live, but we can get that on Thursdays. Thursdays we'll do a live show. But I will say, I received all of the messages from a lot of the audio listeners, a lot of the OG casual wrestling fans would send me messages and say, hey, this live stuff is cool, but we miss the OG podcast. We miss when you just kind of crank the nuts and bolts and you talk about what you like and don't like in the wrestling business. And I heard it loud and clear. And I will say it was kind of nice to sit down, put together my notes, and really get back to the artistry of just me and a microphone in a room venting about professional wrestling. So we got a lot to talk about this week. You know, I think we got to touch on AEW Full Gear. I think we got to go a little deeper into this War Games situation that's coming up on Saturday. And I think we could dive into a couple of tweets I saw this week that kind of got my mind spinning a little bit. But let's start the show talking about AEW. Now, I didn't watch Full Gear. I consumed it the same way I consume all AEW content, and that is through TikTok, through YouTube, through Twitter, and from what I saw, there was no real reason to consume it any differently than in small digestible pieces. Why break the pattern? AEW is decent wrestling surrounded by just dog shit storytelling. And I just don't enjoy my fake fighting enough to consume it without a heavy dose of decent storytelling. I mean, at this point, AEW fans, you guys have to admit, when the most over person at the pay-per-view is an overweight 8-year-old boy who got over for rizzing up people on TikTok, the gig is up. There's a reason. There is a reason why you guys are moving to smaller venues in 2025. The proof is in the pudding. It's amateur hour. When I see that the most talked about thing coming out of Full Gear is the Rizzler, I don't even have to watch the rest of the show to know that's a wrap. I know what happened after the Rizzler, because if the Rizzler is the most talked about thing, then I know it's just another standard IWC heavy AEW show. And the problem is, even when there's somebody like Bobby Lashley, who I enjoy a good Bobby Lashley match, and Bobby Lashley had a decent match, my problem is then fast forward to the after show, the post-show media scrum as AEW calls it, and I get left completely confused by what I see, because I still don't understand these media scrum things. Like, are we talking to Bobby Lashley, the pro wrestler, or are we talking to Bobby Lashley, the person? Is Bobby in character or is he being himself? Like, why is he smiling so much? Because Bobby the person, I get it. He's happy. He's in a new place. He's back with his buddies. But Bobby the character needs to be a little more serious. And why is Bobby talking about AEW holding titles hostage when that feels like that's pulling the curtain back a little bit, right? And why is there this mandatory press conference that has to happen every time somebody leaves WWE and they go to AEW after their first big pay-per-view? It feels like there's this mandatory situation where they have to sit next to Tony Khan, they have to rub him on the back, and they have to blow smoke up his ass for like an entire 15 minutes. Like, here's the reality, Bobby. Let's be honest about the situation you're in. There's a 10% chance this goes well, but there's more likely a 90% chance that 6 months from now, you're the third match on Collision and you're trying to figure out if you want to wrestle anymore or how to get back to WWE. That's just reality. But at least, I will say, at least MVP kind of brought it all back together by shitting on all the bad questions that were asked at this media scrum. This is the problem. This is the problem with the IWC. This is the problem with Tony Khan. This is the problem when you live in an echo chamber of bad wrestling fans who will praise you for shows that are not commercially viable. You get a bunch of nerds in a room asking middle school level journalism questions. Like, the questions were they were ridiculous. Like, Bobby, what is it like to fight other black world champions? Next question, please. Bobby, what's your inspiration for joining AEW? Hey, next question, please. You might as well ask, Bobby, what's it like to leave the number one wrestling company in the world, the Sun, where everything gravitates around that company? What's it like to leave that company, Bobby? That's the real question that you should ask. But we know what the IWC wants. We know what these journalists are looking for. It's a bait situation trying to get Bobby Lashley to say something negative about WWE because, like middle school acne-ridden boys, these IWC fans are just burnout hipsters who just love to snicker at meaningless insults tossed at the popular kids, because WWE is the popular kids. Let's be real. Wrestling right now and forever will circle around the conglomerate that is known as WWE. AEW, niche wrestling company. But here's a bit of advice. This is free advice for Tony Khan. Take it or leave it, Tony. Do whatever the hell you want with it. It's up to you. Less is more, brother. Less is more. 10 matches on a pay-per-view is too much. Too much for casual wrestling fans, too much for normal wrestling fans. The only people who want 10 matches are your niche little sicko wrestling audience. And I get it, right? I get it. You're playing to the internet nerds that are more happy when there's more flippy wrestling. It gives them a bigger chance to cream in their young buck underoos, but everybody doesn't have to be on the card, Tony. It is okay to leave some guys off. It is okay to not put every person on the card. And let's talk about one guy who probably should have been left off the card. It's another WWE defector. It's Ricochet. Talk about a guy in Ricochet who thought the grass is greener on the other side. All I got to do is get to AEW and things will be better. Man, Ricochet had a chance to bring it home this week. If you go, like, they've been talking forever, right? He needs the right opponent. He needs to be given the freedom to do what he wants. He has the opportunity to go out there and basically script it the way he wants plenty of time. And all I see the internet talking about is what a boring match Ricochet put on. And here's the problem, Ricochet. You at one point, you had a large group of the IWC who was behind you. Then you decided to go on this weird tirade where you told the entire internet to fuck off. Even the ones that liked you, right? So you shrunk your audience down considerably. Now, that last little bit of IWC that was hanging on and riding with you, it looks like they jumped off the sinking ship. It looks to me like they're done with you. But lesson learned, Ricochet, maybe don't tell the entire application of X to fuck off because you put the target on your back. You're the guy who said you didn't want to compete with the younger talent in WWE, so you took your ball and you went to another backyard, and it turns out Maybe you're just not that good at playing ball. Maybe you're not as exciting. Maybe you're not as over as you thought. Maybe it wasn't the company that was holding you down. Maybe you just don't have all the intangibles. Look, when there are people sitting in the stands during your match in a building that is dedicated to an AEW show and they are on their phone ordering WWE merchandise, dude, your match was so boring that you've pushed people to research the other company. That's absolutely insane. That's absolutely insane to me. But look, when the IWC is out here claiming that Mercedes Moné had match of the night, I don't have to watch the rest of the card to know it's dog shit. Like that's enough. That's a metric enough for me to understand this card wasn't for me. This card was for the IWC sickos. But this is my big issue with AEW. Then we'll lay it to rest because I'm not going to talk about this for an hour. But AEW still, at this point, 4 or 5 years into being a wrestling company, has zero identity. Like, you have your highs. There's moments where AEW is good, but it's just littered with lows and extreme lows and confusing storytelling. And the problem is, if AEW would just come out, if Tony Khan would just come out and admit, we're a niche wrestling company. We're playing to a very small percentage of the audience, and we're not trying to compete with WWE. We're not competing for the casual audience. It would make things better. But my issue is, Tony then goes on to social media and goes on to media networks and talks about, I brought the Costco boys and the Rizzler in to appeal to the casual wrestling fans. Tony, you don't have casual wrestling fans. We aren't watching AEW anymore. Like, I can tell you, just based on my community, on a sample size of people who listen to me, we're not fucking with you anymore. We're not tuning in. 3 out of every 25 people are maybe paying attention. But you don't have a casual fan base. You have a hardcore sicko fan base, and it's time to just start booking and living your life, and that's okay. It's okay to have that. But what you're doing right now is called a clusterfuck. When you try to appeal to casual audiences, but you have a niche style of wrestling, it's called a clusterfuck, and clusterfucks are not successful businesses. I can promise you. It's literally look at your soccer team, look at your football team, look at your wrestling team, your wrestling company, all clusterfucks. It's time to get it together. But speaking of clusterfucks, has anybody else caught wind of this WWE situation where they've copyrighted the name Edge? And more so, not just the situation, but has anybody caught wind that there is this other subsection of wrestling fans that I call the WWE IWC, and how on Twitter and X and Instagram, they've all completely lost their shit. They've all convinced themselves Edge's return is imminent to the WWE. But I'm sorry, dipshits. It's not happening. That's not a real thing. This is, once again, just WWE using business practices, protecting themselves, protecting the name, because they know that Tony Khan and Adam Copeland are sitting in a dark room twiddling their fingers, just hoping that WWE lets this trademark slip through the cracks so they can scoop it up, because they already took the song. They've already basically taken the character of Edge. All they need is the name to complete, like, Tony's dream of actually owning a piece of WWE. But you didn't get this one. You didn't. Triple H beat you to the punch. And here's the problem, like WWE, IWC. Adam Copeland's an AEW guy. You get that through your head right now. Like, after hearing all of his weird ass stories about hanging out of cars going 100 miles an hour and seeing him jump off the top of a cage and breaking his legs, he's an AEW guy. Nothing wrong with that, right? His boyfriend Christian's there. He's got lots of comfort food in AEW, and he can actually be a contributing player on that roster. There's no spot for him on the WWE roster. It's too crowded. It's too littered with young talent. WWE is not in the market for 40-plus-year-old wrestlers. We exchanged our two 40-plus-year-olds. We exchanged those for CM Punk, a guy who can actually get over on his own and who will put over younger talent. So IWC, stop with the Edge and John Cena talk. It's not happening. Stop. Nobody wants to see bald spot Cena take on rickety leg Edge. It's not happening. So I've had a few days to really sit with this Bloodline War Games match. And the more I look at this on paper, the more I really, really, really like what I'm looking at. I did not expect in my lifetime to see CM Punk in a match with the OG Bloodline. Like, there are so many things that had to line up in order for this to happen. And holy shit, it happened. There are so many elements of this match that intrigue me. Like, I've always loved Roman Reigns. I've always loved Roman Reigns' story. I think it's the greatest story arc in wrestling history. I like Solo Sikoa. I think they've taken his character, they've given him a proper kind of Temu Bloodline storyline, and he's done the best that somebody can do with that for somebody who has his level of experience, right? I love Jacob Fatu. I think Jacob is an absolute beast. I think when the chains are finally taken off Jacob, the sky is the limit for a guy like that. I think Tama Tonga has personality. I think Tonga Loa is Tonga Loa, and you need a guy that you can laugh at. And I think Bronson Reed just works with this new bloodline. Like, the look, I said this last week, the look of this new bloodline fully came together when they added Bronson Reed, and now they actually look and legitimately move like a real faction. And I think that's awesome. I hope this isn't a one-and-done situation for Bronson. I'm talking about for Bronson Reed, because I think he can find himself in this new bloodline. I do genuinely think if he stays on SmackDown, or if this bloodline story bleeds over to both shows, I think there is room for growth with Bronson Reed. But you look at the flip side of this match, right? On the flip side, we got Roman Reigns, got the man of aura, right? The dude just screams professional wrestling. He is the guy, the tribal chief. That his name alone on the marquee get you amped up. But now we've got the new improved Yeet Jey Uso. Throw him in. He's a main event guy now, right? You got this new version of Jimmy Uso, which is comfortable taking a backseat, comfortable giving you some comic relief, comfortable being a role player in a group that is filled with a lot of talent, a lot of superstars. And we have the tried and true version of Sami Zayn, which I like best. The Bloodline Sami Zayn is the best version of Sami Zayn. I don't like underdog Sami Zayn. Conspiracy Sami Zayn was fine, but Bloodline Sami Zayn is the best version of Sami Zayn. And so now take that and sprinkle on top my all-time favorite wrestler, CM Punk, and this thing just got spicy, man. This thing just got crazy. Like, I've seen all of the conspiracies. I've seen all of the different predictions. I am here for all of it. This idea that Paul Heyman came out with a black suit and a red shirt, which is what Solo wears, I'm here for that. I am here for that. There are so many directions they can take this story. And that's when WWE is at its absolute best. Is when you could give me $1,000 right now. I'm not predicting what's going to happen. This could go so many different ways. And to me, that's when wrestling is at its best. The interaction between CM Punk and Roman Reigns on Friday was great. You could feel the tension between those two. And I'm looking forward to more of that this Friday. I'm looking forward to the sit down between Paul Heyman, CM Punk, Roman Reigns. It's going to make for great television. The callback to CM Punk owing Paul Heyman a favor, that's great. That is great booking. That's great storytelling. That's great wrestling. Triple H, you got it. You nailed this one. I'm looking forward to the sit down. I'm also looking forward to Jacob versus Jay on Friday, because I haven't read the spoilers. This is all fresh for me. This could easily end up being my match of the year. When you look at it on paper, this has all of the potential to hit all of the nerdy D notes. Like, because I've been on a roller coaster for the last 3 or 4 months. My emotions have been up. My emotions have been down. There was a hot minute where Mike had me convinced that the Wyatt Six were going to be in War Games against American Made and that the Bloodline were going to have nothing to do with it. I have never been more happy about somebody being wrong about something than when we finally got confirmation that wasn't happening. And look, I dog on Triple H a lot. I am one of his toughest critics. I just don't think Triple H does the in-between premium live events well. But man, does he get the big ones right. And maybe that's just the casualty of knocking it out the park every time when we step up to a Royal Rumble, or we step up to a WrestleMania, or we step up to a SummerSlam, or we step up to a Survivor Series. he knocks those out the park. So if that means that your Money in the Banks and some of these in between aren't as good, maybe that's just a casualty of the way Triple H books. But he got this one. This one is on point. Like for the last 2 weeks, I thought for sure, okay, we're adding Seth Rollins to this match. I'm not super excited about that. It didn't make me feel like if this was the Bronson Reed Seth Rollins story just bleeding into the bloodline, I didn't love that. But it was all a swerve. You got me, Triple H. You caught me off guard. You hit me with the old rope-a-dope. Because here's the situation why I didn't want Seth Rollins in. I think down the line, there's still a world that exists where Seth and Roman have to meet one more time for a big final epic clash, right? They're the two top dogs in WWE. They're the two alpha males of the company. And I think it's only right that at some point down the line that Roman Reigns puts over Seth Rollins for a title. That's a conversation for a different time, but I do believe that has to happen. That's why I didn't want Seth Rollins. Love CM Punk being in this match. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because he's my favorite wrestler, but I love CM Punk being in this match. Now, War Games looks good. All around, I think War Games is fine, right? And the week of War Games is a great week to do Survivor Series War Games, right? Thursday, I get my turkey. I get to chill, get to just hang out, watch a little football. Friday, do a little Black Friday shopping. Then come home, watch SmackDown. Then Saturday, we strap in. It's Survivor Series. That's a great 3 days. Like, my ass is going to be glued to my lazy boy in the living room. They're going to have to pry me off of that thing Saturday night because I'm going to make 2 turkeys so that I have enough leftovers to make it through the week. So I don't even have to leave the room. I can just fall asleep, wake back up, and be right back into wrestling. I haven't watched spoilers for Friday, by the way. Like, I kind of mentioned that earlier. And so if anybody gets into the comment section of this video and spoils that shit, we will have a problem. Just FYI. I will be pissed off, just so you know. I will be dropping the ban hammer on anybody who jumps into the comments and tries to spoil Friday. Because at this point, I'm still in a universe where nothing has happened. And I'd like to keep it that way. But let's talk about the other matches in War Games. Let's start with the women's War Games match and how that's kind of taken shape. And more specifically, let's talk about Jade Cargill being removed from the match. I know I've seen the conspiracies. I've seen the talk about Bayley. That's all good. That's all well. That's probably what happened, right? But what if? Let's play what if for a little bit. What if it was actually Bianca Belair? What if it was actually Bianca Belair who pushed Jade Cargill and injured her, taking her out of this War Game situation? I mean, they've been planting these seeds on us for the last few weeks. Let's not act like WWE hasn't been pumping subliminal messages into our head that Jade and Bianca don't get along. They're doing it like they have Elon Musk Neuralink. They're trying to secretly stick that stuff in by using different podcasters and different dirt sheets. We have all been kind of trained at this point to believe that there's a crack in the armor between these two. Makes sense. It makes sense. If there was ever a time that you were going to turn Bianca Belair heel, this is it. You don't need her as a babyface right now. For the last 6 months, you've been operating with her as an NPC, as a side character, as a tag team champion. She could turn heel without anybody really noticing. She could turn heel on Jade, and Jade could return right before WrestleMania, right before the Royal Rumble. She may not even return at all to deal with Bianca Belair. There's so many different ways that you could run this, but we know Rhea Ripley is a known babyface right now. So if you wanted, and they've teased this a little bit, if you wanted to do Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, would it not be fun to do babyface Rhea Ripley versus a heel Bianca Belair? I'm just saying. Bianca used heel tactics on Raw this past week, okay? So it's not a far stretch. And the last couple weeks, Bianca's been getting a little snippy with people around her. And it's a little bit funny to me that Bianca's kind of opened her arms to Bayley all of a sudden and she's welcoming her to the team. That, to me, all of this reads like, all right, we may be in tune. It wouldn't hurt Bianca Belair. She could use the refresh. there's always the possibility that it's just what's being placed in front of us, right? That it's Bayley. Bayley pushed Jade because, she's jealous of new talent, or she's always had a problem with Bianca. That's possible. I've seen hypotheticals online where someone said it's Bayley and it's being fueled by Charlotte and Becky, and they're getting kind of the band back together and they're forming a faction of OGs. I don't know that I believe that. Could be fun, but I think Bianca turning is the more interesting story at this point. Just side note, I still feel like we got robbed of a proper 4 horsewomen match in WWE. Like, as much as I tend to dog on Mercedes Moné, I think that a fatal 4-way would have been fun. I think this is one of those things where I talk about WWE just waiting too long to pull the trigger. We should have had a match at WrestleMania that was Becky Lynch versus Charlotte versus Mercedes versus Bayley. And I think that window, if it hasn't already closed, it's closing faster and faster every day. I don't know how much longer Becky Lynch really wants to wrestle. I don't know that Charlotte's not too fragile, and I just, I don't know how long Charlotte has left. I think Mercedes Moné seems to be happy being the biggest house in a shitty neighborhood, and she's kind of finding her niche in AEW with the IWC. So I just, side note kind of complete there. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But the women's war games should be interesting. If nothing else, it'll be interesting, right? Team Batman, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and what looks to be Bayley versus Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae, and Raquel Rodriguez. There's plenty of size, plenty of talent. Io will do her patented crazy stunts and stuff like that. So you got a little bit of everything to keep everybody happy. But would it have really been that hard? Like, I asked this because this is where I get critical of Triple H. Would it have been that hard to give this just a little bit of story context? Instead of like just taking the last 2 weeks and mashing this together and going, here you go, here's 10 superstars. Enjoy WWE Universe. Would it have been that hard to create story for this match? Would it have been that hard that instead of, for the last 3 weeks, carrying around a bulletproof case with the Saudi blood belt in it, that we could have just had a scenario where we make this Survivor Series match make sense? Like, I still to this day don't know how these teams actually come together, because we have general managers, but they don't seem to play a role. It just seems to be like it's just circumstance, right? It's just 5 people kind of line up with 5 people. Like, who says who is supposed to be team captain? Because is it Bianca or is it Rhea Ripley? At this point, I don't know who it is. I think I could have put together a better Survivor Series match. I think that if I was booking this, I would have used Chelsea Green, who by the way, is a native to Canada, right? So you've got the built-in story there. She's team captain of one team, and of course, Piper Niven, her right-hand woman, right by her side. That's 2. We got 2, right? Then we move and we go look. We got 3 heels already ready to go. Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae. You got 5, right? That makes Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae. That's 5. Stay with me. On the opposite side, it almost writes itself, right? You have Bianca, Jade, and Naomi. And I'm booking this before Jade's hurt. You got Bianca, Jade, and Naomi. And then you can go grab a Lash Legend and a Jakara Jackson, who've played an integral role on SmackDown these last couple of weeks, and that team makes more sense. That team has history. That team would have felt cohesive. Those 2 teams against each other would have felt better. I understand the inherent need to put all of your stars on the show. Like, I do get that, like, you need Raquel Rodriguez, you need Liv Morgan, you need Rhea Ripley, but that could have been, we could scratch the LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura match that's half-baked, and we could have done Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley with Liv Morgan just on the side, as a part of that story that's going on. That, to me, that makes more sense. I don't love matches that don't have context. Now, will the women's War Games match be fine? Sure. It'll be entertaining. It's fine. The men's War Games match is the main event. This is a side dish as far as I'm concerned when it comes to wrestling. But the other side dishes we're getting are interesting too. Like the Damian Priest Gunther situation. I don't know how you could have taken something that was actually impressive the first time it happened and just completely dumbed it down to the point where it just doesn't make sense to me anymore. Like, I think Damian Priest and Gunther running it back should be cool. It should be a good match, but instead, we're running it back with Damian Priest now being the Puerto Rican Street King, and Gunther, what, his new character is just being a bitch ass? Like, that's what, like, remember, just bitch assness. That's what his new character embodies. Like, who the fuck in the creative department thought that these characters needed a refresh, and when we refresh them, we're going to go from bisexual Undertaker to the Puerto Rican Street King, and from Gunther, we're going to go from an overconfident heel to just a bitch-ass sissy. Like, man, this does not scream World Heavyweight Championship bout to me. World Heavyweight Championship is supposed to be a workhorse title. This is supposed to be alpha males fighting it out. Instead, I don't know what we're about to watch. All of a sudden, Damian Priest is out here claiming he's from the streets after he left the Judgment Day, which was like a spooky, like I say, he's like bisexual Undertaker. Now he's the Street King. Only street that Damian Priest seems like he came from was Sesame Street. And maybe that's why we have Gunther looking like the Big Bird out here. But I don't understand. This match could have been good. But instead now, every time Gunther cuts a promo, I just cringe. I'm just like, I don't get it. And what makes it even worse is when the IWC tries to defend it. When the IWC steps up and goes, you just don't get it. You just don't, it's subliminal messaging. It's going over your head. No, I get it. It's just bullshit. It's just bad. Gunther should be an overconfident, just snarky, mean-spirited heel. He should always take the low road. He should always say the most despicable thing he could say, and he would be completely over with the audience. Instead, it feels like they've put a limiter on Gunther, and he's just never allowed to go like full heel. Reminds me of Tropic Thunder, right? You never go full heel when you're Gunther. That's what it feels like. Based on Raw, it looks like we got 2 other remaining filler matches. We're going to see Shinsuke and LA Knight, which I said completely underbaked with only 2 weeks of build. I don't understand why that's on this card. And then we're getting the more interesting of the 2 matches, Sheamus versus Ludwig versus Braun Breaker, which is more intriguing because I think it has room for shenanigans. I think there's a world where Triple H could have Braun Breaker lose the title right here, especially if you have bigger plans for him rolling into WrestleMania. I've heard, I know my guy Dead Chef says, good possibility Braun Breaker wins the Royal Rumble. I don't hate that idea. I actually am a fan of that idea. But this feels like a proper moment that if you needed to get the title off of Braun Breaker, this presents an opportunity where he could lose the title without ever getting pinned. And then you could give Sheamus that moment that I think we all kind of want for Sheamus. We all want to see Sheamus become the Grand Slam champion, and then it creates new situations for that title and kind of frees it up for a few different storylines that I think could benefit from surrounding the Intercontinental Championship. But the truth is, for Braun Breaker, it wouldn't hurt him to lose this match. You have different avenues you could go. Like I said, he could win the Royal Rumble, he could move on to bigger things, or he could come back and just destroy Sheamus after getting a proper one-on-one to get the title back. So there's different ways you could go. I'm more excited about this match than I am a half-baked Shinsuke Nakamura versus LA Knight, which just absolutely doesn't make sense to me to be thrown onto this card. We have a special start time of 6 p.m. These things keep getting earlier and earlier, it feels like. That's a 5 p.m. start time in Texas, and I'm not complaining. I like them earlier. I like being able to finish them before everybody's tired, before you can still go get something to eat, still do some other things if you want to do that. But, thank God for that. Also, thank God for the new tag team champions on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, right? No, we didn't get new tag team champions. You mean once again, we had the chance to jumpstart the Raw tag team division, and instead we kept the titles on 2 lame duck champs, Finn Balor and JD McDonough. That's my bad. I thought for sure. I thought there was no chance that the War Raiders didn't come out of Monday Night Raw as the new tag team champions. You've been building these guys up. You finally convinced me that them taking off the Viking gear and putting on the biker gear had made them legitimate tag team champions, and then you have them lose in a fluke match. Why? Because the IWC's been complaining that Finn and JD haven't defended the belt in 150 days? Well, they're kind of right. Like, we really we really didn't need to see the War Raiders lose that match. The story's ending with the War Raiders winning the tag team championships. Why are we delaying the inevitable? There was no need for the War Raiders to pick up a loss. It just didn't need to happen. My question at this point is, why did we have to split up the undisputed tag team championships, right? Because ever since we split them up, you've just booked these titles just in the most ignorant way possible. You've booked it into factions. The Bloodline had one for a long time. The Judgment Day has the other. Hashtag free the titles. Hashtag free the Raw tag team titles so that we could get to work. Like, let's do War Raiders versus the Creed brothers. That's a match I'd like to see. I really have zero interest in seeing Finn Balor and JD McDonough holding the tag team titles. That's just me being honest. And speaking of titles, while we're on the subject of titles, can we talk about how are you just going to slide in a new women's Intercontinental Championship before the show starts? I have a problem with this, Triple H, because this is you playing wrestling social media god. This is you trying to manufacture more social media. And this is a dangerous game to play. Trust me, I know this about the internet. I know the internet. The internet doesn't like when you try to manufacture social media. I can tell you, like, Triple H has his new little legion of like TikTok reactors that he's put together that he uses in his commercials. The internet doesn't like that, Triple H. They don't like when you start to manufacture this stuff. And so now you're trying to get people talking on social media during Monday Night Raw. It's not going to end well. You should have announced that title during Monday Night Raw. It's so weird to announce that pre-show, have it tweeted about by all of these like dirt sheets that you claim you dislike, so that, 3/4 of the way through the show, you can go back and go, oh, by the way, we did this before the show. What am I watching for? Why am I watching your live TV programming if you're doing shit when it's not on TV? That doesn't have more respect for the fan at home when you do this kind of thing. But here's the thing. Here's another title, right? We have another women's title. We have another tournament because we can't think of a more creative way to crown a new champion than to just take all of the remaining women on the roster, mashing them into a tournament and going, 6 weeks from now, we'll know who this is. We'll know who the champion is. It just feels like there's more creative ways to do that. So now what it is, it creates new talking points where we can go, who was going to be the first women's United States champion? Now we can go, who's going to be the first women's Intercontinental champion? Who deserves this? It's talking points. I don't love it. I don't love manufacturing social media. You want me to be real honest with you, Triple H? The only title that people really want back, the only title that casual fans and IWC alike really want back is, in 2025, give us a new hardcore championship. You made the damn belt for Travis Scott. Let's just make it a thing. Let's have hardcore matches. You're moving to Netflix. You don't have the cable rules anymore. Let's do a hardcore champion. I think that I could get both casual and IWC fans to agree. We all would enjoy that in 2025. The last thing is we finally got Xavier Woods turning on Kofi Kingston, or was it Kofi turning on Xavier? Just felt like kind of a fallout. Felt like they've been booking this to be Xavier's big turn, but when it all kind of spilled out, it was glorious. It was a beautiful exchange between the two guys. They let it all out on the table. It felt raw. It felt real. It's just 8 weeks too late. Like, why didn't we do this 8 weeks ago? What have we been waiting for? Why have we damaged Xavier Woods' character up until this point to just get to the point where they're both going to spill their guts on each other? Like, I guess better late than never, but it does feel like it happened 8 weeks too late. Now, Monday will be interesting because are we getting Big E? With this New Day reunion, they're turning this into, seems like a big thing. Like this feels like this may be the thing that ends Monday Night Raw on Monday, and I'm all for that. I think that could be good, but they've got to play this correctly. I think they booked themselves into a little bit of a situation here because I think in order for Xavier Woods to kind of complete this breakaway from the New Day and complete this heel turn, I think he's got to win a title now. I think he has to be a champion. So that leaves the Intercontinental Championship in play. If everything goes the way I think it does, and Sheamus does win the title in this triple threat match, that could open the door for Xavier Woods to, within the next 6 weeks, become the Intercontinental Championship. I almost think he has to, though. I feel like he has to. All right, joining me now is my beautiful wife and co-host of the Nerdy D-Pod, Level Up Lauren. You're here to help me kind of break down the last couple weeks of wrestling. You have a couple questions. I'm going to catch you up before Survivor Series. Hit me with what you got.
All right, so you said something about an overweight 8-year-old boy. Is that the one who like eats Costco wings?
Yeah, so AEW basically brought in, there's the Costco boys. I think that's who you're talking about.
Yes.
It's the father. The father's actually a wrestler, and there's the son, and they do the Costco videos, and they're loosely associated with the other overweight little boy, the Rizzler, the one that does the, you know me as the Rizzler, I'm the Panther dressed in black. If I give your girl the Riz face, there's no chance she's coming back.
Yes,
right?
that was a great impression.
Thank you, appreciate it. I've watched enough Rizzler to know what he says and what he does. It's a gimmick. It's to me, it's kind of sad that this is, as far as like my circle of what I read on social media, this is the most talked about thing coming out of AEW Full Gear. This is what,
which is not good.
Yeah, at least this is
them.
like the casual group of fans that I tend to associate with. This is what they are acknowledging as Full Gear, and I think that tends to be a little negative because AEW doesn't have the casual fan base. And that's why I say when a niche company kind of goes out of its way to clusterfuck a situation and they do, it's like a giveaway at a sports game, right? Like first 500 people get this special bat, right?
Yeah.
It's a trick to get people into a game. And so this is that same trick. And usually what a lot of people don't understand is it's a gimmick because you're afraid your numbers are going to be bad, right? You don't give away the thing at a game where you know people are going to show up. So sure. This to me says that Tony Khan knows the audience is dwindling. We are not reaching a wide net. We have our niche audience. Let's cast a net. Let's do this match, which I really don't think got that much attention from casual wrestling fans other than laughing because it's like a gimmick. But he throws this Hail Mary and he hopes that he can garner an audience from this match and that will carry over into watching the regular show. Problem is, the minute an AEW show starts, it's immediately apparent this is going to be more IWC-centric wrestling. And I just don't think there's crossover. I said it earlier in the show. Tony Khan has to figure out the identity of his company, and it's not the Rizzler. It's not the Costco boys. That's great. It's a gimmick. It gets people to laugh, but that's not going to build your audience. That audience is not carrying through. That audience is more attuned to like watching Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. That audience is more attuned to watching a WWE show. That audience, I don't think, wants to see
the Rizzler.
Orange Cassidy and John Moxley, right?
Yeah.
The same people who watch the Costco boys probably don't know a lot about 90% of the people on
if
the
I tuned in to
AEW
watch
roster.
Costco Boys, I watch the Costco Boys and then I'm done.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's the problem. Especially having it on the pre-show was weird. Like, put it on the card then. Force people to buy the premium live event to see it.
Agreed. 100%.
What else you got?
So I was kind of confused. So Bobby Lashley, right? You were talking about him earlier.
Yeah.
He hasn't actually said anything negative about WWE, right? Like Ricochet and some of the other people have.
No. So Bobby Lashley, from everything that I've read with Bobby Lashley, he's seemingly taken the high road. I don't think he has a problem with WWE. Unlike a lot of guys like Ricochet, even Saraya, even Mercedes Moné, I feel like they leave WWE because they have a fear of their position, right? Like Ricochet couldn't get to that next level. It feels like Mercedes Moné thought of herself as better than the situation she was in.
Yeah.
With Bobby Lashley, I think it comes down to a simple, Triple H just wasn't hearing the creative that Bobby Lashley wanted to pursue. Bobby Lashley's reached the highest of highs in WWE.
Yeah.
He's not a guy, he's not underachieving, right? Sure. So I think Bobby Lashley looks at the situation. I think, MVP's gone on record saying, I talked to Triple H. I gave him the situation of reintroducing the Hurt business or whatever Hurt business, and getting Bobby and MVP and Shelton Benjamin back together. And Triple H, he says, just almost ignored it.
Yeah.
Just acted like it wasn't a thing.
So it was like a business thing.
Yeah. So it feels like to me, the next logical step.
But he didn't leave on bad terms, which is good.
So to me, the next logical step is, if I've got this idea, I've got this movie I want to pitch, I've got to go to another director. And AEW is that other company. It seems like Tony Khan very receptive to the idea, so he shows up. So to me, with Bobby Lashley, I don't think Bobby is in a situation where he wants to be negative to WWE. I think Bobby is actually in a situation where he just feels like he's a little bit in control. The thing that I said about Bobby earlier was I think there's such a lack of structure in AEW, especially when it comes to these post-show media scrums, because I don't think anybody really knows, is it supposed to be an extension of the wrestling show, or is it a look behind the curtains? And it feels like MVP is extending the wrestling show, whereas Bobby Lashley was kind of given a look behind the curtain. And that's where that confusion came for me, was you have Bobby Lashley saying things like, I need a title. Give me a title, Tony Khan. When that's, to me, that's behind the curtain. That's saying, Tony, you need to put a title on me.
True.
Instead of playing into, I'm here to win a title, I will win a title. That to me. But no, Bobby Lashley hasn't, to my knowledge, hasn't really gone after Triple H or WWE at all.
Yeah. So he wasn't like Ricochet.
No.
So speaking of Ricochet, what did he do that was like so bad that everybody was like, oh, this is boring?
I just think his match. So I think the big thing here is that the argument that the IWC continuously made to me was that WWE held Ricochet back. Right? This is an argument they make a lot about their IWC darling characters, is that the WWE is stopping these guys from, limiting movesets, not giving them a microphone. Then all of a sudden, Ricochet goes to AEW. He's given the opportunity. He's given one of these like Japanese, I don't know who this guy is. Like, this is, and the IWC will kill me for not knowing who this guy is, right? Because this apparently is like a dream match that they set up. And then, so from the sound of it and from what I've seen, it just looked like neither of these guys really wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the fact they got put in the middle of the card. I don't know if they were given too much time and they didn't know what to do with it. But like, it's no joke.
Where does it go from there? Like, you talk all this shit to everybody about how great you are, and then you shit the bed. Yeah,
I think that's what AEW is, though, right? It's just a world where, like, where do you go? It just resets. You just live in a bubble where you continuously tell yourself how great you are, and Tony Khan pats you on the back, and you do become slightly delusional with this idea, like when they say, like, oh, this wrestler's as good as people in WWE. It's just not true. WWE is the sun. It is where everything rotates around WWE. And so the reality is, if Ricochet goes to AEW and he still can't get over, and he still can't get the job done, and I'm talking about on a mass scale, right? It's one thing to get over with a niche AEW audience. That's fine. Lots of people do that. I'm talking about being able to get over commercially. Yes. It's not going to happen being on Collision Weekly. No. So for Ricochet, I mean, that's not a lie. Like, there are pictures on the internet of like fans in the stands.
That's crazy.
Watching that match and ordering WWE merchandise.
That's crazy.
Which just means, like, what's going on in there is so. But this is also the problem with 10 matches a night.
That's too many.
If you have 10 matches in a night, it goes without saying that there's fatigue. Triple H has it figured out with the five matches.
I agree.
It's
5
boom,
is good.
Boom, boom, boom. Oh, shit, this thing's almost done?
You've almost got to be left wanting just slightly a little bit more satisfied, 100%. But not to where you're like, oh, man, is this over yet?
The feeling want, and this happens in WWE, especially on the ones where Triple H has been getting it right. You get to that fourth match, and you go, there's only one more?
Yeah.
There's one left?
Yeah.
That's when you know good premium live event. When there's 10, you're like, fuck, how many more do we have to sit through?
Yeah, it's just too many, because then like you're like, okay,
we're only on number 6.
We can do something while this is going on, because we still have like 7 more to go.
Yeah,
we're
not
good. We're good. I know that we have like all this war game stuff coming up and everything.
Yeah.
You were talking about Bianca Belair switching over to Hill. Do you think that that's something she can do when, like, I would just always picture her smiling all the time.
I do. I think she started to show it. I think she's a little snarkier lately. I think she can be a little sassy. I'm not a big NXT person, but I think she's done the heel thing before in NXT.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't always Miss like happy.
No. And like you like to be a heel, you don't necessarily just have to be completely nasty. You can just use some heel tactics, and it brings in, like, she used to use the hair as a finishing move. She would whip people with it, right?
Oh,
and so that all of a sudden becomes a built-in moveset. There are ways to work it into her character, but I think Bianca needs a refresh.
Yeah.
I think it goes without saying that like you said, that smiley, bubbly, I think she's done it so long that people do kind of believe She's like got one
That's
speed.
how I just think that she is, yes, in real life.
It's the old, like we keep saying, you know, I make the argument all the time, she's better chasing a title. Mm-hmm. Well, that tends to be a babyface problem.
Yeah.
Let's see what she can do on the other side. And like I said, there's never been a better time to experiment with this because you have Rhea Ripley. Mm-hmm. You have all of these other baby faces in place right now that you're not reliant on Bianca Belair selling the merchandise and selling the tickets. And to be real honest with you, like they don't do a good job with Bianca Belair merchandise and stuff like that.
I think they're horrible merchandise.
And so
there's so many missed opportunities for her.
I think you have to look at like the Roman Reigns model where Roman Reigns was perfectly serviceable as a babyface. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until he became heel that he really became comfortable and ascended to that next level. I think you at least have to dip Bianca Belair's toe into the pool of being a bad guy just to see, like, maybe it's in there. And maybe you because Montez has shown a couple of these last couple of weeks, he's shown a little bit of like nasty kind of turning heel along with Dawkins. Is there a world where you have Bianca take out someone like what's her name?
Jade?
Red hair. B-Fab. B-Fab.
Oh, okay.
Right? Could you play an angle? Yo, Bianca took out Jade. Now she shows up and goes, hey, bitch, get away from my man.
Get away from my man.
Yeah, and she fucks her up next, right?
I would be into that. That would be pretty
cool. And now we have a Street Profits that's Bianca, Montez, and Carmelo. Dawkins. Yes. Angelo Dawkins. And now we could run them all in different singles situations, right? Let Montez go for a title. Let Doc go for a title. And then you have Bianca. It could work. I'm just saying it could work.
I would like it. You know, I'd be down for that. You know, speaking of like, you know, what is this called? Not images, but like characters or whatever. Mm-hmm. I did like when you called Damian a bisexual Undertaker.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious because in my mind I've thought that. Like, what is this like dominatrix? What's going on here? You know? Like,
it's not I didn't coin the term. It's definitely an internet term that's been used
I've definitely missed that,
quite frequently. But I think the problem I've always had with Damian Priest is I think he's extremely talented. Mm-hmm. And he's one of those guys, when I start piecing it together, he doesn't do anything bad. But bad creative can put you in a bad situation. So you go from his original character was this half good, half evil, right? They played on the angel and the demon.
I always get him and the general dude mixed up.
Yeah, you did.
Their characters. Yeah. And that's not good.
No. So, but then from there, he rolled into the Judgment Day, which was a more supernatural thing, right? So that's where the bisexual Undertaker thing comes from, because that's just they kind of coined him that. I think he's even joked about it being funny, right? I don't think it's necessarily an insult.
Yeah.
But now what I'm worried about is he's a huge fan of Scott Hall, who was the guy who used to have the toothpick, and he was kind of a gangster, and he'd throw the tooth. It feels like this is an evolution that he's mimicking. He's the Puerto Rican street king. Yeah. And I'm hoping this isn't a play on being a fan of Scott Hall.
Okay.
Because Damian Priest was like a guy who could just be Damian Priest and be fine. He's got a good look. He's got the size. He can talk. Mm-hmm. I don't love the idea of him all of a sudden
emulating somebody else.
Yeah, I don't want to say this sounds funny, but
it can come out disingenuous sometimes, and so like almost like cringy.
It comes off as like the white character who's told to act black, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what Damian Priest, I'm just saying that's what it reads a little bit, because we've had supernatural Damian Priest for so long.
Yeah.
Him switching over to like, I run these streets. It's like, dude, last week you were wearing full leather with like metal nipple clamps.
You've never even been in the streets, bro.
Like this is a hard, like we're gonna have to see some footage.
You grew up in the suburbs, Damian.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I get that. I think my last one was just couple like little things. Number one, I think Finn and JD look like freaking twins. I don't like them.
Yeah, I like Finn Balor, but
I don't like them together.
As a tag team, it's boring. It doesn't make sense to me.
And then the other thing I didn't understand was, why did they change the Viking Raiders to like these biker raiders?
So I think this goes back to NXT. So they were the War Raiders in NXT. That's their original
See, I don't
gimmick.
have much NXT knowledge, so I didn't realize that they came from NXT and then went up. So
And then from what I understand, this was a Vince McMahon. Like I picture Vince McMahon in an office, like they walk in and they've already got everything's flushed out. They're ready to go. He's like, you know what you guys should do? You guys should put on some Viking stuff, right? It's like, okay, well, what, Vince?
I like that.
We've got our character. No, people go nuts for this Viking shit, right?
That's a great impression, by the way.
That's Vince McMahon. That's
You're on the
spot
ball
on,
today.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what happened. I think they did it. To me, the Viking shit would have worked great during the Attitude Era when you had Kane, you had The Undertaker. It was a costume party, right? It was Halloween wrestling. It was supernatural. There were things going on. I think the Viking thing is a little bit weird, and people always tried to explain this away to me, and the same people who would explain it away now are telling me how great the War Raiders are. But I always thought it was weird in a wrestling company that's now kind of been grounded in reality, right?
Yeah.
They take away gimmicks so fast from like Austin Theory or anybody or Karrion Kross.
And I like gimmicks. I think that it makes it more interesting, in my opinion.
Me too.
I miss them.
100% me too. I think wrestling's more fun when there's gimmicks. But I think in a world where you ground everybody around, I always thought it was weird to have a Vikings rules match with the New Day.
Yeah.
Right? Because the New Day are just two normal dudes. And why are they in a Vikings rules match where the ring looks like a boat?
Yeah.
So I think there's a thought in that, like, these guys are super talented, especially for being as big as they are.
Definitely.
These are big guys. They're like Otis, right? They're guys that move extremely well for being as big as they are. So I think, to me, you strip off all of the fur, you strip off the need to, like, do Viking seances and stuff like that, and now they're just two kind of badasses coming to the ring and doing big guy badass shit.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That makes sense then. I didn't know that, but I like that.
All right, Lauren, so let's do a round of 20 questions here.
Okay.
You're going to be asking me I'll be asking you the question.
Yes.
You came up with a name. I'll ask the questions. In 20 questions, you have a name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go. Start. Let's start with simple. Is this a male wrestler?
No.
No. So it's a female wrestler. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Is this person on the Survivor Series War Games card? Are they in a match? I can tell you who's in the match.
Tell me who's in the matches.
Well, you have all of the Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
You have Damian Priest and Gunther. Mm-hmm. You have the women's War Game match. You have LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and you have Sheamus versus Braun versus Ludwig. So wait, the first question was, is this a man, correct? And you said no.
No, it's not a man.
So they've got to be one of the 10 females in the women's War Games match.
Who's in the women's War Games match?
Okay, so you have Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, Nia Jax. You have Bianca Belair. Looks like Bayley. You have Naomi. You have... who are the other two? I have them written
Is
down.
it Io Sky?
Yes, but...
Okay. Yes, they are.
Wait.
They are in the match.
I hope it's not Io Sky, though. I'm not.
Is that your guess?
No, it's not. It's not. I feel like that was a trick. I feel like you were trying to throw me off the scent there.
No comment.
Okay, so now we're down to 10. This is pretty easy here because I'm what, 3
You
questions?
could just go down the list and ask.
Because you can't. It ends if you ask who it is.
Oh, okay.
It's still got but I can eliminate them one at a time. Is this person part of Damage Control?
No.
Okay, so it's not Io Sky.
No.
Is this person a black wrestler?
I don't know. I mean, like, we're gonna put maybe.
Okay, how many questions is that?
4.
That's a maybe. Well, so I can eliminate anybody who, like, Liv Morgan's clearly not a maybe.
So, is that a guess?
No, I'm saying Liv Morgan is clearly not a maybe.
Could she be?
Okay, so that leaves Bianca, Jade, but Jade's not in anymore. Bailey, can't be questioned as black.
Is she? I don't know what Bailey is, honestly.
She's white.
Is she?
Or she could be Hispanic.
I don't know.
She could. that's
her name could be like
one.
Bailey Gutierrez Gonzalez.
I'm jumping there, but she could be Hispanic. I don't know. Okay, so this narrows it down to 2. I've got this. I've got it locked in. Does this person have a long braid?
No.
Okay, is this person...
That's 6.
How do I word this? How do I say this nicely that doesn't get the internet pissed off? Is this a robust woman? Is this a bigger woman?
Okay, because robust could mean, is she robust?
Okay.
Or
is she is she of the Piper Niven shape?
Yes, she's in the Piper Niven shape. That's
okay,
8.
So this is Nia Jax.
This is Nia Jax.
This is
bang, 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 Nia Jax.
All right, so let's do 10 questions from now on.
Okay.
I think I can get there in 10.
20.
I went with 20 because
me
I was
with the
nervous.
banger that I was like, I didn't want to answer it wrong because like I thought so. I didn't want to say yes.
I get it.
If they were in Survivor Series or not.
I started thinking who could possibly be black or
but
not.
I don't know what. Like I know she's like Samoan, but like she's like mixed with
I
something.
think
I don't know what she is.
I think she's mixed. I think you're right.
You know,
we could be completely wrong. All right, Lauren, I have a couple tweets we're going to end the show off with here, and then we'll get out of here. Right, starting with, this comes from Enforcer Chris, says, hot take, KO should beat Cody Rhodes. Randy versus Cody doesn't need the title, and we get Sammy versus KO at WrestleMania for the title. You're about 50% correct here, Chris. I think you're on to something. I am of the belief 100% that in order for Cody Rhodes to remain interesting, it's time to drop the title. He can stay in the title picture, but he needs some controversy. He needs something like a mountain to climb. He's better when he's chasing.
Yeah.
And so Kevin Owens is that guy. 100%. Kevin Owens is the guy who should be the WWE champion right now. He's on fire. I've said it numerous times. He is the best all-around professional wrestler. When you want to check every box when it comes to a professional wrestler, you go to Kevin Owens. Best on the microphone, best in the ring, best at promos, best at comedic wrestling, best at serious wrestling. Whatever you need, he's got it in the bag of tools. So he not only deserves a title run, but he is, I think, Lauren, champions are tend to be in wrestling defined by who is their counterpart, right? John Cena, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
John Cena, CM Punk had a run. Stone Cold and The Rock. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Roman Reigns is not around enough to be that for Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens can be that guy. There is a world where Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes could create a story arc that runs years long. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of Kevin Owens winning. This is taking place at Saturday Night Main Event in a couple weeks in I believe it's in New York. It's a special Saturday night show on NBC. Feels like a good time for Kevin Owens to win the title.
Let's go, KO.
I think him and Cody are close enough that they understand the dynamics of storytelling. I still like the idea of going triple threat at WrestleMania and having KO carry the title into WrestleMania and having Randy Orton come back right around that time, maybe even win the Royal Rumble, and doing Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens for the WWE title. I love that match. Let's book that match.
Yeah, that sounds good. Took me a while.
You've got The Rock and Roman. I'm starting to like this idea of KO, Randy, and Cody as that other big headline match.
I like it.
Because they need something for Cody to do.
Yeah.
Will Ostrich says, damn it, brah. Ricky Starks is way too good to be wasting away his talent in garbage championship wrestling. Tony Khan is a moron. So if you don't know, Ricky Starks has been doing some work in GCW, which is
GCW.
I think it's the one where they hit each other with light bulbs and pizza cutters, and I think it is. Not sure.
So he's not on the main event?
He's not even on AEW programming right now. Why? This is not even an AEW company. I don't know. I've said this, but this is one of two things. There's one of two situations going on here. One, this is a work, and Ricky Starks is trying to build because he went on. What he did is he went on GCW, cut a promo, basically saying that he's been frozen out of AEW. That Tony Khan just will not give him stories and stuff like that. So this is either a work, and he's playing, and he's going to show back up in AEW, which I say this is kind of dumb. Yeah. Because this is the same storyline that they seem to recycle in AEW, where pissed off guy comes back, He's reinserted into a story, and then it kind of fizzles and doesn't go anywhere. It also hits a little too close to home when, like, you've had guys get disgruntled and leave the company and find success in other places. I tend to believe that this is a story that's based in a little bit of reality. I think that Ricky Starks is upset with AEW.
Yeah.
I think Ricky Starks would love nothing more than to get out of his contract and get to WWE, but I think he still knows he's got to continue to generate buzz. You got to keep your name in the headlines.
Exactly, even if they're going to put you down.
I feel like that's what's happening here, but I find it interesting, Lauren, that Vince McMahon always got a bad rap as the guy who wouldn't let people out of their contract.
Yeah.
He would hold guys hostage and not give them the opportunity somewhere else. I don't understand why Tony Khan doesn't get that same level of scrutiny when we're starting to see what looks like Tony Khan
doing the same,
keeping guys from getting out of their contract, because I think he's got a little PTSD. He saw CM Punk leave AEW, go to WWE, where I think everybody thought, I was always pro CM Punk in WWE, but I think a lot of people thought, well, he's just going to turn out bad there. And then Tony Khan he'll look good because he can say,
he made the right decision.
Yeah, I made the right decision. All of a sudden, CM Punk goes to WWE, where
everybody
it was
him.
rumored he hated Triple H, rumored he hated Stephanie McMahon. This past week, I see backstage pictures of him hugging them, and they're all best friends and best buddies.
It was probably just a circumstance that he hated, and
Sure.
shit happens, and you are an adult, and you move on, and business is business, and you say, fuck it.
It's the fact that CM Punk thought he was the best in the world. Triple H and WWE didn't agree, and they had a difference in opinion. But to me, I think Tony Khan now has PTSD, and he's afraid to see a guy like Ricky Starks, who I'm not using him, right? What happens when Ricky Starks leaves WWE, goes to NXT, blows up? Ethan Page already did it a little bit. I think Ricky Starks has the ability to do it even more. So I just don't understand why Tony Khan doesn't.
Which one was Ethan Page?
I don't even know.
That's not the cowboy one, was it?
No.
Okay.
So it's Ethan Page. He showed up on NXT. And he won the NXT title, and there were a lot of people going like, holy shit, why was he not doing this in AEW?
Yeah.
Last one here I have is Cena is Epic says, here's the top 10 list of the best WWE tag teams right now. He's got number 1, DIY, number 2, Motor City Machine Guns, number 3, Street Profits, 4, War Raiders, 5, A-Town Down Under, 6, the Creed Brothers, 7, the New Day, 8, the AOP, 9, Legado de Fantasma, 10, the Judgment Day. I hear you, Cena is Epic, but I'm going to fix your list right now before we get out of here.
Legado Fantasma, number 1.
No, definitely not. The correct top 10 list of WWE tag teams right now goes number 1, the Street Profits, even though they're just not getting any representation. Number 2 is the Creed Brothers. Those dudes are beast, Lauren. Number 3 is the War Raiders, the Take Off the Fur. I'm starting to get behind them. Number 4 is Motor City Machine Guns. I'm not a big fan, but I see people who are fans, and I understand the allure. Yeah. Number 5 is DIY. They're breaking up, it feels like, but they're still a credible tag team until they're officially broken up. 6 is AOP. 2 big motherfuckers in the ring. Can't go wrong with that. Number 7 is Judgment Day, because I guess they're still champions, and I guess that matters. And so I guess they have to make the list. Number 8 is the New Day. Look, they're going through some shit right now, but they're still 2 legitimate superstars. Number 9, Legado de Fantasma. Are they even really a tag team anymore? They hardly wrestle as a tag team, but I guess they're there.
They are.
They exist. And last but least, is number 10, A-Town Down Under, who I put on life support a couple weeks ago. Hey, we got to pronounce these guys dead. They have flatlined. I have zero interest in 2 guys who should be extremely interesting. They just completely stopped this storyline, completely stopped the turn. What is going on with A-Town Down Under? I don't get it.
I don't know. I like your list, though.
Thank you. But that is all we have this week. If you're only here to watch wrestling, then you guys will see you next week. If you're interested in other things like comedy or hanging out live, you can check out the Nerdy D-Pod on Fridays and the Casual Live Show on Thursdays. We're putting a halt on the Mike and D Sports Show. We're reworking it. We have some ideas. We want to kind of reframe it. Maybe broaden the spectrum of not just sports, add a couple other things. It'll get reworked. It'll get retooled. That's going to come back in January. We're going to hit the ground running in January with that. So for right now, we've got the 2 podcasts. and the one live show. That's what we're going to focus on. That's what we're going to roll with. But as always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. That is Level Up Lauren. I want you guys to stay casual. And Lauren, ring the final bell.
Ding, 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 ding,
Living on the wrong side of a bullet. Lay down in the squared circle, envy's alive. Time is ticking, but we'll always survive. From Texas to the big leagues, we bring the sound. No IWC, only casuals around.